This is the numinous secret of the purple orchid classic of Chinese medicine. It is in the spiritual pivot of the internal transmission of the Yellow Emperor. That's the Bible of Chinese medicine. This was put together in its current form, the Nei Jing, I think in about the 2nd century. That's what I remember. And it's from a lot other older texts and from different schools of thought and of medicine. Then this is, they gathered everything gradually it was assembled, all the most valuable texts, and they put this out as coming straight from the Yellow Emperor, 2800 BC. And that is ridiculous. Unless, of course, things are more mysterious here than we realize. When I first started lecturing on this, Heiner asked me to do it in his foundation classes, cosmology classes, and I always in my introduction tried to make it clear that I have not decoded the real truth of what the ancients thought. I am channeling directly from the Yellow Emperor himself. This is not because I'm a wise scholar, it's because I'm in tune with the source of this on a higher plane, or I'm delusional. And I think one should hold both of those possibilities. And the fact that this is not my native culture. I had a very set cosmology set up in my head when I first encountered this. So, and it's this way with all Chinese and with all ideas past. When I learned about John Wesley, my major focus in terms of my personal study has always been of people in groups. I've always been fascinated by what happens when a group of people get together and try to interact in a way that is productive and gets more things accomplished that are beneficial for all of them than anyone could do by themselves. I blame that on my astrology, but it's been there ever since I was like a small boy. I was always interested in the club and talked about the club and always had a club, even if there were only 2 of us. I thought the future there would be more. But as I got older, I had a lot of different experiences in a lot of different groups of people who tried to do something together. Oftentimes it was something that was given to them as a task, but usually the people that I found had some idea that this would somehow be beneficial for their personal spiritual development. I should look and see if she's...
Robin's there.
Robin's there.
Martha told her that she's supposed to be sleeping because it's 3 in the morning.
Right. But she was... her email was, it's 3 a.m. I should be sleeping. What do you think the subject might be? Can that properly put her to sleep?
I will say, share this on your Zoom screen also so Robin can see it.
So this actually was one of the first things in Chinese that I ever encountered and tried to understand. And I actually did a whole class with the famous French sinologist Claude Lorrain, French guy who was a Jesuit priest and basically was he wrote a very popular book on this. As I was kind of trying to acknowledge, because I have a whole different cosmology stuck in my head from what I've encountered before, I look for things in Chinese that agree with it. This is pure confirmation bias. So you have to take that into account in terms of everything I say, because this is a very cryptic piece. And people have said all kinds of things about what it means, and most of them very mundane. And that could be that it is just totally mundane. It's an analogy between the officials in a government and the vital organs of the body. And I think it's a very interesting analogy, and that was one thing that I always noticed in any group of people I ever tried to work with, was that they specialized. They divided up into certain functions for certain uses. People sometimes taking what was available that they could do, sometimes wanting to feel like they were more important and taking higher ranked officials, but always people seem to divide up in these specialized skills. And I found this fascinating in that you could see it in my church MYF group, my hippie group that was going to buy land in Oregon, my farm group in Oregon, my sannyasin house in Portland, the big ranch, and then all the different China trips where basically you'd have a group of people trying to get someplace that had to be organized in a certain way, and different people had to take different rules. And it's consistently seemed like to me that there are very definite functions or roles that are required and that people divide themselves up into. And it's very interesting to look at it, at how a group of people are operating relative to those roles, because the roles people take, the functions that people take, oftentimes have something to do with all kinds of different things. So maybe it's easy, maybe it's what they want to be, maybe it can be all kinds of different things. So you can't use it as a type system, but to notice what kind of roles people fall into when you're trying to work with them, I think is, well, it's been probably my most specialized study in life. Now, you'll notice that the order that they are in is the same order that I use in the Qigong form. So I will cover that request that we talk about, how I teach the Qigong form along with this. So it starts with the fact that this is a flower of magic, Ling being, the coming down from heaven of divine forces. They use a big word, numinous. Ling is one of the most important characters that you should know, and because it's the name of the whole book in itself. It's like Ling Shu, yeah. Spiritual, yeah. They translate it as spiritual, but it's this character. And the top of it is rain, the character for rain, and then there are 3 boxes that are said to be voices, chanting. And then there's the character for work, gong, 2 lines joined by a third down the middle, and then there are 2 people dancing. It is said to be shamans dancing and chanting in order to bring about rain, which is the most important magical power that people a little closer to nature must have. The secret classic of the spiritual orchid, secret being a combination of the word for heart with a thorn in it, must, and a grain. I don't know why that means secret, but that's one of the most important words for secret. And then Jian is classic. So this whole text is based upon the most important thing that people need to understand about learning from words. And that is, you have to find someone who knows more than you do and ask them questions. Even if you are the Yellow Emperor, even if you are the most powerful person in the land, If you have any sense, you will find the smartest guy in the kingdom and you will start asking him questions. And this text is that. The Yellow Emperor is asking this character that's named Chibo. Mostly people call him that one and don't translate his name because his name it really is the name for, you know, your mother's brother that doesn't do anything in the world and goes live in a shed at the corner of the property, and it just goes a different path. He's divergent. He doesn't, you know, and he doesn't have any kids, and he's just on a different limb of the tree. But he's still an uncle. He's still a relative, and because he's got no vested interests, you know, he's not in the political fight. He can speak the truth. Most people don't interpret that name that way, but I've always liked the concept. Oh, so the emperor asks him. It's interesting the way he puts it. He wants to know about the 12, and this is a word meaning storage place. And the vital organs are this word with the radical for body. But by itself, it just means a storage place. And the storage place of mutuality, and this is the word for envoy. And oftentimes it's just a lead-in for a sentence that doesn't mean much. But in this, it is also used for the title of the pericardium official, or what we call the pericardium official. So he's asking something about how these 12 are connected, how these 12 store places are mutually connected. And the divergent uncle agrees and says he'll tell him the whole story. And then he starts with the function of each official. And you'll notice it's like a kind of formula. There's the name of the organ, and then there's a character that's like a grammatical word that is a noun signifier. It's like, I think of it as, I use it basically like a comma. So the first character is the name of the physical organ, the heart, and then there's a comma. And then it's the official, this is the word for official, and this is another grammatical word, which means basically the official of, and this is the title of the official. Now with the heart, you have this extra character stuck in, which basically means also, or it's a final. I'm not sure why they put it in there. And then you've got the word for, at the end, you've got the verb, which means to come out of. It's the basic word that you will encounter in China if you're looking for the exit. This means exit in classical Chinese, basically, or what comes out of. So you've got the name of the official, and then what comes out of it, or what's it for? What emerges from it. So you've got this same pattern all the way down. The first 5 are all one character names. Next 4 are 2 character names, so the whole thing shifts over. But still you've got this same pattern, all the way down to where then you've got the last official, which is the bladder, and you've got a whole line and then half a line saying something else. It's kind of a mystery. Every organ of the traditional 12 Chinese organs has its own line except for the spleen and stomach. They're put in one line together in the middle, which is kind of odd, but to me one of those mysteries that may mean maybe the route in to really understand the meaning. I find the contrast between the heart and the lung, and I'm surely not going to get any further than that tonight, probably, is in terms of how life operates. The most mysterious and the most difficult. And it really comes from this kind of older and universal idea that the heart, the sovereign, the person on top, the person highest on the hierarchy, and this is definitely a hierarchy, does nothing, practices wu wei. And as a result of his ability to do that, the radiance of consciousness flows through him and affects everyone else in a way so that they see clearly who they are and what they're here for and how to work together. Without that power of something coming down through someone who's doing nothing, everything becomes usually a matter of physical force, circumstance, trickery. But there is a memory, maybe a genetic memory, maybe an illusion, maybe a knowledge of the world to come that thinks that there are indeed beings who are able to connect with forces that make everyone more enlightened, more aware, more conscious. And that is oddly accepted as true by most everybody, but they deal with it in very different ways. Usually they deal with it in the form that they are guided by someone who was like that, but is now left for whatever reason. They're just temporarily left, and they're maybe coming back. Or there maybe is someone who is still in touch with them, who can represent them on Earth. But in how many organizations of all types is there a idealized sentient being who we serve? In democracies, oddly enough, it's this creature that they call the people. The people are what we're supposed to be helping and serving by participating in governance. And the people are like some sentient being that has will, and it's going someplace, and it has ideas, and it's evolving. And if we're really truly in tune with it, then we move in harmony with higher being.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
So when you say it's but the heart does nothing, is that from the line, or is that from your experience of study?
Well, I would say both. Although with the line, it's a little bit more confusing in that way, in terms of the difference between the title, the name of the office, and what it does. The names are very interesting. This is not just my crackpot idea. This is a basic, almost universal idea in Chinese culture, that what defines the emperor as having a mandate from heaven is the fact that he's connected to heaven, and something flows through him, and he just has to observe the correct rites, and the kingdom is at peace. The way you know, in the world as it is, unfortunately, ever since the Golden Age, how you can tell who has the mandate from heaven is who can kill everybody who opposes them. So this character, I think, is really very interesting. In Weiger, this old classical Chinese book that I have, he takes that character through the centuries all the way from the oracle bones to the present, And originally, apparently, it was some god-like being that had antenna or horns. An alien with horns is yes.
So Weiger's kind of old. Have there been any new research or theories?
I haven't seen anybody do it as well as Weiger. And while Weiger, of course, has been superseded in every way, he has 2 pages in which he shows the definition for the character in different periods and how it went from an alien to a Confucian official in terms of what the picture was of.
An alien meaning of being with antenna, or an alien like in like illegal immigrant alien?
Oh, the antenna with it is interesting how in most of these archaic cultures, the great warlords wore helmets with big horns. And the reason for that was that they believed that was the form that the gods took, just like Beelzebub. Beelzebub is also pictured having horns, and it may be a real appendage of a higher level being. And there may be some memory in the human consciousness of a time in which aliens with horns, or we would call them aliens, but they were just higher beings, interacted with us and even maybe governed us. The Japanese did the same. Chinese did the same. That was, Romans did the same. There's always this thing of putting big appendages on the head, on the helmet of great, powerful warlords.
But not just warlords, but spiritual leaders.
Yeah. And eventually it turns into the traditional hat of the emperor that has all these beady things coming down the front. That, and Weiger takes it to the period when that's what they said that character was a picture of, is that hat on the emperor. Almost any representation of powerful alien beings also involve horns. And so it's obviously a thing that life manifests, is this extra sensory perception that come out of Ming Tong. In any case, Lars said that this character is connected with bloodlines as well, with the idea that there is such a thing as royal blood or noble blood, that you really have to have a certain amount of midi-chlorians in your blood in order to... Everybody get the reference?
Yeah.
Get what in your blood?
Midi-chlorians. Is that the right pronunciation?
No, I don't get the reference.
It's Star Wars. There is, I think, some kind of genetic memory in many people of something like that. Not everybody, but a lot of people have this sense that there was a time in which there were people who radiated some sort of clarity, like a substance that made people aware enough so that they understood what they needed to do in any given situation. And this was the Chinese ideal, and I may have put it a little different, but there was this belief that that was the function of the Lord. And the title, one thing I was going to say about this word Jin, it's like great inflation. It has come to just mean someone who's educated, a gentleman, someone who's in the class of Junzi. Yeah, the name of the most common Chinese formula is Junzi, meaning four, and they translate it as the 4 gentlemen, particularly if it's with that word Zi. It's just basically the same way as we use the term gentleman. So it's not that big a deal, and it's not emperor, as most people translate it when they talk about this. They talk about the heart being the emperor. No, there's a different character for emperor. It was just on the previous page. It's not emperor. It's basically the person who has sovereignty someone in a situation where nobody else can tell them what to do. But this is a two-character word, like junsa, but when they put both characters together, the name itself has a different meaning, and Jinju basically is a sovereign lord, someone who has sovereignty and power, and is a ruler. This word Ju, its basic meaning is someone who has the power to rule, to make the rules. And actually, even some people think it comes from the word for a ruler, for a measuring device. Other people say that it's a picture of a candelabra with a light at the top, and it's a person who is like a stand that can contain a light. And I think that's where the word came from. Someone who holds the light. And is in that whole idea of, okay, they've got the power, they've got the position, they're the Lord, and they can transmit the light. And that is the means by which they rule. And that isn't by telling anybody what to do. One thing that they do, and maybe the only thing that they do politically, is recognize who the prime minister is, who the lung is, who is the person who is going to actually make the rules and direct the activities. For us benighted lower beings, who probably are not worthy of the presence of a true Junju, we have to make do with some boss, somebody who makes the rules, somebody through whom some sort of power has come for some reason, that is in a position to tell us what to do. Or, if you're in a group, if you're like, trying to put on a dinner or hold a weekend workshop, it's like, okay, who is the one that's going to have veto power? Who is going to be the overall coordinator and organizer?
When we had retreats, you always had Wang as the heart.
For you, and all of this stuff is just analogies, For me, Wang is the prime minister, Heiner is the general, and Li Jia is the heart. But see, it's a generational thing, and it's who I have contact with. And it may be different in different situations, true. But in general, for Qigong Club purposes, I use Wang as an example of the heart. He's not here. He's not telling any of you what to do. But he has a force that comes through me, functioning as the prime minister. Everyone, I think, in their heart of hearts aspires to doing nothing, to being someone through whom some force comes that enables people to cultivate, evolve, become who they really are, without you having to do anything. And for me, coming into situations with people, Hopi, and I have always had like an intimation that there is something like that happening in the groups in which I've participated. It's one of my odd, perhaps superstitious beliefs that in the groups that I've been a part of, because people gather for a particular purpose like that, there is some force that's more than us that comes in and has a clarifying effect. That's my way of approaching it anyway, which is the same way that I approach teaching forms.